Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me at the back? Very good. Good afternoon, kawana. Kamusta ka mo mga wana sang NWTF? Sige. Okay, shall we start? Are you ready? Okay. So my topic this afternoon is about mental and women's health. So I am Miss Marge. I am also a guidance counselor by profession. So when talking about mental health, so this activity was initiated by the NWTF in collaboration with UP Visayas, our flagship, UPV Cares, for our for organizations which we work together with, not just in organizations similar with technology, but also in any organizations in the community. And one of that, close to UP Visayas, is your organization. Okay, so I have mentioned earlier, mga huwana, kamusta ka mo? Kamusta kayo? Diba? It's an easy and very frequent question that we have heard. But actually, have you sat down and think about it? Kamusta ako? Kamusta ka? In the real sense of the meaning? It's an easy question, but if you really think about it, it's very difficult to answer. Physically, emotionally, how are you doing right now? Feel good? I could see smiling faces, but yet behind those smiles, how are you doing, Wana? Okay pa? Kaya pa? Kakayanin. Okay. So all emotions are valid. Only that you have to think in any emotions that you feel, whether you're happy, you're sad, or you're angry, let us always think of our emotions. How do we respond to that emotion? When you're angry, you're entitled of that. But how do you respond to that certain emotions that you have? Do you hurt others or do you tend to keep it within? You just tend to separate yourself and be alone while having your breathe in, breathe out? Sige. So our topic this afternoon is mental health, followed by reproductive and sexual rights, and lastly, coping mechanism. So how do we deal with all those stresses that we encounter every day? And mind you, your HR officer mentioned earlier that being a woman, we wear different hats. And this afternoon, I would like to each and every one of you to request to please wear the hat of being a participant. Leave all those roles, being a manager, being an expert on specific field, being a mother, being a daughter, because right now I want you to listen and focus because this is for you. Because without us, woman in the family would be very difficult. Diba? Tayo ang ilaw ng tahanan. Sige, let's proceed. So, let's discuss first what is pandemic. Tananta, have you experienced pandemic? Anyone? Wala man siguro excuse. Globally and locally, we are all affected of it. But how do we deal with it? So when talking about pandemic, it gives us a feeling of uncertainty. What will happen during pandemic, especially for the previous year? What will happen with our salaries? Are we going to report to work? Are we allowed to work from home? What will happen to my kids who are going through sa ila school year for professional development? How will I go for school, for my master's degree? It brings us a lot of uncertainty and most especially it threatens our lives, right? Tananta, earlier I have asked Mangani, can I remove my mask because it's very difficult to wear mask? But of course, no, because we have to comply with our protocol and with the minimum requirement of wearing our mask. But how are we coping out of that? Kaya pa, diba? Despite the difficulty, we tend to comply because that is a necessity. Also, out of this pandemic, it had threatened our security and control of what is happening around us. This is very new to us, and all of us don't know what to do to deal with it. There are those nga How did you go through with your pandemic period? Ara lang sa balay? Did you work on naging plantita ka mo right away? Or did you become a plantita for a period of pandemic lang, ara lang sa balay? And then after that, yung barter na dayon ng plants. Diba? And it gives us a very bad feeling as to what will happen, especially those people who are family members are affected of the virus. Loss of a loved one, loss of work, loss of relationships. We're in a long-distance relationship was very challenging, and there are those na wala na overcome ang long-distance relationship. Sinudia right now na belong sa LDR, na shy pa si ma'am. I commend you because being an LDR, very difficult, diba? Especially kung wala signal. Or si Habi, ara lang sa specific na area, kung siman, wala kami di signal. And very challenging for us. Now pa nga, with this pandemic nga, we have limitations as to our mobility. But mind you, with all those challenges that we are going through right now, we cannot control what is happening. But I would like to emphasize that we could control how we're going to respond to certain situations that is happening right now. We cannot just, because this is very difficult for us, we just tend to complain and be irate about the situation. But of course, we could look onto the positive perspective of it. Like not being able to go to school, we tend to complain as parent, kabudlay kay si teacher, wala signal, kabudlay kay I have to attend sa classes sa nga ko ng mga kiddos. But on the other perspective, looking at what had happened right now, you have that opportunity to cook hot meals for your kids, to be able to hug them and take care of them, and to be able to teach them, to be with them all the time because ara lang sila sa balay. Because as parents as we are, tendency would be most of their time is at school and most of your time is ara sa work. But with this pandemic, there are a lot of positive things nga gindalaman sa aton. It's not just all about the negative things. Okay, so when talking about mental health, what is your concept of mental health? Anyone? What is your concept of mental health among the group? Lady wearing yellow at the back. Sorry, because you have the same color. You are? Yes, you are? Adele, right? Did I hear it right? Anel. Okay. Anel, what is your concept of mental health? Can you move closer, please, so that I could hear you? Go, Anel. It's your time to shine. To be able to overcome challenges? Yes, Anel. Don't shock si Anel. Yes, you can do it. Damo ka fans. Kuno sa inyo nga branches. So, Anel, you have a lot of fans. Yes. Yes, Anel?
For me, my concept of mental health is that you're able to overcome all those challenges that we tackle every day in our life. And then is that we are open-minded and we are not afraid to what is called this? We're not afraid to pakita or ano na feel ta or whatsoever.
Very good. We're not afraid to show our emotions. Yeah. And of course, to be able to bounce back
Yeah.
from what is happening out of all those challenges. Thank you, Annelle. Okay. So correct, no? That is the concept of mental health. But mind you, it's not just all about the good things, right? When talking about mental health, there will be times that you would feel like na gusto ko in one day, I just want to keep quiet. The other day, I just want to be in my room alone with that blanket on. And that is really normal. When talking about mental health, it doesn't just tell us how tolerant are we with all those challenges. But when talking about mental health, it's not just about the absence of mental illness, but it also really a reality that sometimes medyo feeling mo you're the superwoman, you can do everything, bring it on, right? But there will be times you just wanted to be alone, sit quietly, and be in that corner. For a while, you don't want to deal with people. And that is really normal, right? So when talking about mental health, hindi naman nga sagad-sagad, pigid all the time, but there will be times nagkakakapoy man, tao lang po. Diba? And World Health Organization defined mental health as a state of well-being wherein one realizes his own potential, his own abilities, and at the same time, to be able to bounce back from this difficult situation and going back into reality. That despite the challenges you are experiencing, yet you wake up in the morning and you do your routine and be able to, one day at a time, overcome that difficulty that you're going through. So that is mental health. You just work productively despite with all those stresses that you go through. And that, as I have mentioned earlier, when talking about mental health, there will be times that you feel like this. You're very strong, kaya everything, but there will be times, pahuway lang ko anay. Kamu naman, give me a break, a little break. And if I'm done with that little break, again, I will go back as a Wonder Woman. So that is mental health. So mental health is invisible. Sometimes, if you could run through the screen, sometimes you could project that you could be a model, but at the same time, you're conscious. You could project as if you're very confident, but deep inside, ga-shatter ka man, or gadwindle. You could smile in front of your clients, but deep inside, you're struggling. And that is normal. What you're going through is really normal, and hindi ka nag-iisa. All of us go through the same experience and go through same difficulties. But let us be sensitive on the people that we deal with. Because not all those wearing beautiful smiles, smile could hide thousands of emotions. And I really love that quote. Because deep inside, despite that person who is smiling in front of you, they have their own baggages. So let us be sensitive and be generous to the people we are dealing with. Especially to our workers that we deal every day. Hindi nga pagsulod sa office, hindi ko pagilabte, gainit bala ulo ko. Diba? May ara na yung iba niya pagsulog na. Ang kilay gataas na. But yes, it's not just you who are going through such difficulty. Tanan kita. Lahat tayo, we are going through with it. And we have to be sensitive. Again, all emotions are valid. Only that, we have to be conscious on how we respond to that emotion. Next, concept of well-being. It could be, it's not just physically well, psychological well, socially well. For among those three, it's very easy for us to identify physical well-being. Dugahilan at kuha, pagsulod ko palang kay-guard, nag-sound na din ang alarm. Thus, you're not feeling well for physical well-being. Pa-check up right away. On the social well-being, we would say nga, I think there's something wrong with her. Kay Anel, kay si Anel, kagina, magsulod na sa, hi Anel, magsulod sa office, best in hi, hello na siya right away with all smiles. But right now, Anel is not talking. Maybe there's something wrong with her. Thus, it's easy for us to identify the social well-being kung may problem. But for psychological, how do we identify that there's something wrong with that person? Anyone? Hindi makita ang mga smiles makita ko lang mata react right away. Yes, ma'am. Can you give us an example? Mamula na tao sa likod. Yes, beautiful lady in black and purple. Yes, ma'am. When talking about psychological well-being in your own perspective, how will you identify that that person is going through a challenging situation? You are?
Karen.
Karen. Beautiful Karen. Thank you, Gid, for taking the challenge, for accepting the challenge to answer in front of everybody. Lahat seat si Karen. Karen. Yes. How do we identify that that person is going through a challenging situation when it comes to her psychological well-being?
Maybe we can observe her. Like, for example, I have a colleague who's happy and especially if you have a colleague or sorry. I can say that she had undergo a psychological something. If there's a change, you can see that every time or every day you're together, and then she's always happy and she's always sharing what's happening with her life. And then one day, she arrived at the office, like she's not that anymore. Like she's not happy, she's not talking to you, and then she just all the time she just yeah. Then you can really say that she's undergo something
Difficult situation.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Karen. Yeah. Gaklap din si Sir. May fun kami, Karen. So when talking about mental health, no, it's easy for us to identify if physical, because it could easily be seen. For social also, it could also be seen. But for psychological, it's intangible. Diba? Hindi mo ma-check yan. Unlike for physical, ay init ka. I think you're not feeling well. But for psychological, pwede nga, gasmile siya everyday, updanay ka mo everyday, and you're not aware of what is going through with that person. That is difficult for psychological. Pwede siya nga, okay lang na siya because I've been there. I was able to overcome that situation. But no, each of us has our own individuality. Diba? The individual psychology that each and every one of us are unique. We are product of 10 generations behind us. Thus, who you are as a person right now is different from the other, irregardless, panga twins ka mo. Because your personhood is individual. Pwede nga, it's true to me, but it's not be true to you. Sa imo, amuning strategy mo as to how to deal with that situation, but for other, it may not be effective. Thus, for psychological, you have to, as mentioned by Ms. Karen earlier, kinanlan, you will be able to deal with that person, know that person, for you to identify that there is something wrong with that person. It's not easy. You just know her by name and you have identified that there's something wrong. Thus, you have to be sensitive towards the other person's feelings, reactions, emotions, because for an individual person going through a difficult situation, it's not easy to go through with it. And being in that situation, that person needs all the support that he or she could get. And that is mental health. And what are the primary challenges in our mental health? Every day we are dealing with stress, diba? And of course, stress, hindi naman nagalin sa work. Of course, I understand nga sa stress, ang work sometimes could be very stressful, but it also came from, it could generate from home, from your friends, from your colleagues. It could be from a community that you deal with, right? And the challenge for that, and when talking about stress, it doesn't just tell us about the negative stress. We also have the positive stress. We call it the eustress for the positive stress, and for the negative stress, we call it distress. So ano ang mga example of positive stress? Can you give me one? Positive stress, nga go through mo, na stress ko, but this is good for me. May good gali nga stress? Can you give me one? All you have to do is to raise your hand and answer. No need to go in front. Kaya feeling ko na stress because mag-raise ang hand, come in front. Yes, give me one, please. Positive stress. that you experience here in NWTF. What is a positive stress here? It could be among the gentlemen. Yes. Among the gentlemen. Positive stress could be promotion. Diba? Na-promote ko, na-stress ko because there are a lot of work and demands, but yet that is a positive stress. A challenge for me to take on. And at the same time, okay. So at the same time, it doesn't just, when talking about the stress, it doesn't just deal us about negative stress. It could be promotion in the work. It could be at home, being a new parent, having new kids, or new baby in the family. It could be a positive stress. How about the negative stress that we experience? Medyo damo, we could count them more than Saturn hands. Can you give me one negative stress? Negative stress, yes, lady, wearing glasses. Negative stress, give me at least one clue. Money. Money is a negative stress. Money is an answer to our stress. Diba? But yes, sometimes it's difficult for us to provide. So it could be negative stress. Another one, aside from money, what are the negative stress that we have? At home. Give me one negative stress that we go through. See kids, yes, Karen? Family. Reunions, travels, it could be positive kung ang relationship is very good, but it could be negative if you have conflict with other family members. Right? Sige. Okay, so now, when talking about mental health, what are the warning signs that you could tell that there's something wrong with me? First one, we have neglect of personal hygiene. Diba? I want you to raise your hands, please. All of you, even on the screen, please raise your hand. Higher, wana. Mga huwana ng NWTF. Raise your hand higher. Okay lang, naka-sleeveless. Okay, raise your hand higher. On your left. On your right. Up. Down. Again, on your left. Right. Down. Okay, kindly put down your hands. Kamusta? Mabango pa ba? When you turn to your left, did you smell something bad or good? On your right. Thus, the first one is, are you still taking a bath? Do you still take care of your personal hygiene? Right? Because if you have that feeling and you don't want to take a bath every day, you don't want to wake up, maybe that's another reason for you to consider. The second one is change in sleeping habit. That sometimes you find it difficult to sleep at night or early in the morning you tend to go to sleep. Diba? Because normally on the day, if you're working on day, you have to wake up in the morning and you have to sleep in the evening, except to those nocturnal who really tend to open their phones at night. But of course, there are those challenging situations, change in sleeping habit. And at the same time, weight gain and weight loss. Who among you here tends to eat and eat and eat? Get stress eating? Yes, we nag-wave at the back. Stress eating, that tendency we would gain weight. And there are those who man approach us that when they are stressed, they don't want to eat at all. They just work. It's already 12:30, but yet they're still attending to their workloads. And of course, we have decline in performance. As mentioned earlier by Miss Karen, that person has been very good every day, and then here comes one day, sudden change in behavior. And moodiness, irritability. It could be a feeling of helplessness, feeling of hopelessness. That feeling mo, in this situation I am in right now, wala na talagang pag-asa. And substance abuse, it could be alcohol, it could be cigarette, that they tend to find comfort in doing so. And hearing voices. May naririnig pa ba ng mga voices dyan? If may naririnig ng kumakausap sa'yo, medyo alarming na yan. Kung may kumakausap na sa'yo, medyo you have to seek for a professional na probably. And of course, thinking of harming yourself and of others. In the context of counseling, if you would tend to look for a professional with regards to mental health, there are only two reasons for us to divulge what we have discussed. That the professional could go out from the confidentiality agreement between a client and a counselor. That is, if you intend to harm others and if you intend to harm yourself. That's the time, regardless of our confidentiality agreement, the counselor should break the confidentiality of what you have discussed in order to secure the life of that person or of the other. And lastly, burnout. How many among those I have mentioned are you experiencing right now? Diba? There are those who are still smiling. If you have identified yourself now, there are areas that you are experiencing right now, probably it's the best time for you to look for someone to talk to. It doesn't mean that you seek for a professional and you need someone for a therapy or a counseling. Medyo schizo ka na, medyo may ano ka na, ano nga ba tawag doon? For schizo, we have ang buang, may sira na ang ulo. Diba? Thus, when you seek for a professional, it is normal for us to feel that way. Just like in physical, that you tend to look for a physician when you're sick because you have to attend to your physical needs. And talking to someone, looking for a professional when it comes to your mental health, it doesn't tell you right away na medyo schizo ka na. But it's a normal for us to look for someone to vent out and release those heavy emotions that we are feeling right now. And those are the warning signs for mental health. It can be hard to admit that you are struggling, but if you don't tell anyone what you're feeling, nobody would help you. Nobody would know, right? There are a lot of professionals very willing to help you. For COVID-19, we also have the psychosocial support for Western Visayas. So you could also seek for that. And also we have the USAP hotline. You could search it online wherein you could call or talk to a counselor of what you're going through, and that is for free. And you are the books that you read, the movies that you watch, the music you listen to, and the people you spend time with. The conversations you engage in, and choose wisely what you feed your mind. Remember, what you feed your mind, that becomes who you are. It becomes a habit, and later you will never know that what you're thinking is really actually what you're doing right now. So be careful of what you feed your mind. And also you have to remember that with all those challenges we go through right now, you matter. Juana, isa kang babae, and you matter. And it's okay not to be okay. Diba? It could be, there will be times that you want to be alone, to cry. And it's really normal. All you need to do is sometimes to admit that you are struggling and you need someone to talk to. Help us to break the stigma. Stigma that when you need someone to attend your psychological need, there's something wrong with you. But no, there are a lot of treatable conditions wherein pwede siya i-treat. But unfortunately, they are afraid to stand out and seek for help. You have to raise your hand and shout, help, right? Everyone, please shout, help, help. Again, shout, help, help. All you need to do is to shout for help because nobody will help you if they don't know what you are going through. Okay? And there is no health without mental health. Stop the stigma, help us. Help us to help those people who have no capacity or who doesn't have someone to talk to. Might be the person next to you, might be needing you right now. Diba? Sometimes, isa lang ka approach and then you say, can we talk for a while? I just need someone to listen to me. Sometimes you don't need that someone to talk to you or give you advices. Sometimes they just need someone to sit beside with and cry out. You don't have to mention anything. Just a mere presence of that person would give you very great help and support already. Okay, so that is mental health. Any questions so far with regards to mental health? Okay pa ba tayo, mga wana? Yes, si Sir Ho. Si Juan is answering. Okay, so for our second topic, we will be discussing about reproductive health and our sexual rights. So any one of you here would like to share their opinion about sexual rights? Sige? Later? Okay, get ready with that. So what do we need to know about WANAs or about the women of this society? When we talk about WANA's mental health, it is said, according to a study, 1 among 5 women, or 90% of the women, experiencing common mental disorder. And these are anxiety and, most commonly, anxiety and depression. And compared to our gentlemen, sa mga Juan, we have 1:2. Ang ratio is 1:8 for men, and for women, it's 1:5. Also, it tells us that the different types of mental issues women are experiencing right now. Among all this that have mentioned, any one of you were able to go through with it? Common among all, we have, I presume, there are those premenstrual syndrome or premenstrual. Na every time you have your menstruation, you tend to be irate. Diba? Kainit sa pamatsyag. Kudugad, it's easy for me to get angry. Diba? And of course, among those who experience postpartum. Okay? Okay. Any one of you have experienced postpartum? Wala? Luckily for us, or it just might be nga, ang stigma ara because they are afraid to raise their hands. But for postpartum, that is real. We go through with it, all women. Luckily for us, medyo hindi siya masyado grave. But for some, that those who are already experiencing anxiety and depression after giving birth, go through such difficulty of dealing their emotions. Sometimes the feeling of being helpless, being hopeless, our physical appearance brought about by giving birth, it affects us. Or sometimes we just don't know where are all those emotions coming from. Medyo heavy ang emotions, but yet you don't know where it is coming from. And that is really normal. And we don't have to be ashamed if you were able to go through with it. All you have to do is to seek for a professional who could attend to you. And the most common, as we have mentioned earlier, we have the anxiety. And for anxiety, we have the general anxiety syndrome and we have the panic syndrome. Who among you have experienced anxiety, especially during pandemic period? Feeling ko, parang sumisikip yung dugan ko, parang yung mga, anong mga feeling ng medyo nagpapanik ka na, or you have an anxiety. Usually, they are almost similar because they exhibit the same symptoms, just like increase in heart rate, feeling ko may COVID na ako. Yun pala, anxiety lang pala. Diba? It's all in your mind, diba? And that, feeling like palpitations and disturbed sleep. Sometimes, feeling mo, masakit yung, yung throat mo, yun pala, dala lang ng allergy. It's all in the mind. Product of your anxiety. And of course, aside from that, when talking about anxiety, what is the hairline between anxiety and anxiety disorder? When talking about anxiety, it is a normal reaction that you feel when you are stressed. And for anxiety disorder, it often comes out from nowhere. It's just, I feel like this all the time. I don't know what is the cause of what I'm feeling right now, but I'm feeling this way. And triggered by a specific stressor. It could be because you are exposed to some with like for mental health professionals, it could be they are exposed to COVID patients, thus they feel that way. They have an anxiety. But for anxiety disorder, it is intense and disappropriate as to what is happening. And at the same time, has a start and ending point. It gradually ends. But for anxiety disorder, this out without reason at all, it doesn't end, and you continue to feel that way, despite all the probable reasons that the cause of that emotion has ended, yet you continue to be in that position. Can be helpful or motivational, but for anxiety disorder, ongoing and lasts for weeks, and sometimes it could last for months. Lessens significantly and disappears away from stressful situations, whereas for anxiety disorder, interferes with our day-to-day life. And physical symptoms like sweating, trembling, lightheadedness, and racing of heart. But for anxiety, normal breathing in and breathing out would help. But for anxiety disorder, despite your initiative to lower down your emotions, to calm down, yet the emotion is still there. You're still trembling. And response to a toxic situation, that is normal reaction. Thus, you have an anxiety, but for anxiety disorder, feels impossible to control or manage your emotion. They are almost the same, but only that the difference for anxiety disorder, medyo intense, and at the same time, it is prolonged. Despite na the trigger, the absence of the trigger, yet you still feel that way. And aside from anxiety and anxiety disorder, very common among women, most of you are reacting, yes, our eating disorders. Among men versus women versus men, this is very prevalent for us, Juana, right? For the women, we have, among those prevalent are the anorexia and bulimia nervosa and anorexia nervosa, which is, for anorexia, the feeling mo ang taba-taba mo na, but in reality, when others look at you, the way you look at yourself, you feel very fat, but others look at you, no, you're very thin. To the extent that they think that you already have malnutrition, but you still think that you are very, very fat. And that is anorexia. Cognitive na thinking has difficulty as to understanding na indeed, you are not overweight. Instead, you are malnutrition. You are experiencing already malnutrition. Aside from that, we also have the bulimia. Okay, bulimia. What is the tendency of bulimia? Tendency for bulimia is you tend to eat and eat and eat, and then after that, you tend to draw out the food that you have taken because you feel like you're going to get fat. You have to draw out, to do nausea, nauseated. You feel nauseated about what you have eaten earlier. Thus, you tend to bring it out again after you have eaten that food. Women are affected by this because we women tend to be conscious of our physical well-being also. And with this, aside from those, we also have depression. So when talking about depression, this is a usual fluctuation of emotions, intense emotions. And it's okay for us to feel medyo depressed for a time being. If there are triggers, just like you lost someone, or you're going through separation, going difficult situation. But how can we identify? From a normal person who is feeling sad versus a state of being in a depressive state? Depression would tell us if the trigger, despite the trigger, you've overcome it several months, and whereas for your condition, you have been in that state, feeling hopeless and feeling helpless for several months already, weeks and months already. It is normal for us to bounce back and to fight back of what is happening. Easily, we cry. It's okay to cry for the time being, but don't linger too long. Because if it's way too long, there must be something wrong with you. It might develop into depression already. Affected persons greatly function poorly at work, in school, and in family. And it's very difficult for us to go through with it. And with those people going through with it, they need all the support of the family members, of the co-workers, and those people that they are dealing with. And of course, these situations I have mentioned earlier are very treatable conditions that a person could be attended to. It could help. You could seek for a professional counselor, psychiatrist, or psychologist for this. And many other mental health professionals you could look for. It doesn't have to, there are a lot of people na would, at the last point, they would resolve to suicide because there's no one who could attend to their needs. Okay, so that is depression. Next, we also have, yes, we have depression. And out of that depression, we also have, of course, anxiety. And we have domestic violence and sexual violence. Any one of you have seen this in our community or in your neighborhood? These are the three prevalent mga situations that we encounter every day. Mostly affected by women. Of course, I acknowledge that there are those gentlemen who were able to experience as such, diba? Domestic violence and sexual violence. Hindi naman sa women. But of course, most of the, sorry to say, but most of the perpetrators are gentlemen. And most of those who are affected are women, right? And that, how are we going to protect ourselves? So this afternoon, we're going to read a short story about Elsa. I have prepared a story of Elsa at the back. Miss, can we distribute? Okay. The story of Elsa. Read carefully the story of Elsa and identify your leader and your group representative. Identify at least 3 constitutional rights which you think are violated, especially related to reproductive and sexual rights. Okay, so are we ready? Tanan ni Ara? For those who have no copy of Elsa's story, you can just follow me here on screen. I need a volunteer who could read aloud. Anyone or our MC? Can you please do the honor to read the story of Elsa? Okay, so that was the end of the story. So I would like to group you into 2. Kindly count 1 and 2, please. Among our audience. Or could we divide the group na lang instead? Can we have this one, the group 1 and the group 2? Sige. Can we just turn each other so that we could discuss? I'll give you 1 minute for each person to share. Do you have your questions with you? Kindly identify what are the constitutional rights violated during the story of Elsa. Also, kindly identify 1 leader and 1 representative of the group. That they just look at the slide.
Please read the story of Elsa carefully. After which, please identify a leader in your group as a representative. Number 3, after doing so, identify at least 3 constitutional rights which you think are violated, especially related to reproductive and sexual rights. So we encourage our branches as well as our departments to do the same exercise that we are doing here. Again, this is to encourage a conversation about women and reproductive and sexual rights. So let's try to do that within our branches as well. Thank you very much. Okay, for the branches, again, we will give you 2 to 3 minutes to discuss among yourselves. So again, I'm just repeating our instructions. For the people in the branches, the different departments online, we encourage you to divide yourselves into 2 groups within your offices and your departments, and then read carefully Elsa's story, after which we identify your leader of your group as a representative. Last but not least, identify at least 3 constitutional rights which you think are violated, especially related to reproductive and sexual rights. So we have 2 to 3 minutes for our groups. Our friends in the chat group at the back, they are typing in the instructions for what I just said for the activity on the chat boxes. So please, you can read in through. Thank you.
Okay, so while we are waiting, can we read the answers from the branches, please?
Okay, so we have already our answers from the branches. So one is from Ricardo Emerio or Ricard Emerio. He answered violation of RA 9710, violation of reproductive rights, domestic violence, and violence against women.
Okay.
So we have another one from, sorry, let's see, how do I do this? Okay, Glaisa Maluya. The Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act of 2004 is in keeping with the fundamental freedoms of guaranteed under the Constitution, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, Convention of the Rights of the Children, and other international human rights. Instruments which the Philippines is a party. The forms of VAW addressed are physical, sexual, psychological, and economic abuse. So those are the, wow, very deep answers.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
For your responses. So far, may mga responses that's similar to other branches. So let's check what are the responses from this group. Can we have the group 1? Our group 1 representative is Miss Joy. A round of applause for Miss Joy, please. Miss Joy, very cute and beautiful.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Here is the work of our group. So we are tasked to identify at least 3 constitutional rights which you think are violated, especially related to reproductive and sexual rights. So first, we have indicated here sexual abuse or the act of the husband of Elsa can be considered as rape. No, since
that's one.
he forced her wife not to have sexual contact against her will. And then
Very good.
number two, we have physical assault or abuse. No, so under of which is we can have the violation against women and children as well, wherein it was stated here in the story that children and as well as Elsa suffered from physical assault from the husband of Elsa. And then for our number three, we have selected here as Responsible Parenthood and Reproductive Health Act of 2012, wherein we have to protect or promote the health of women, especially sa kay Elsa in our story. So her health is very abused since after giving birth of her child or son, she died. And then this may also include our family planning program wherein we have to use contraceptive or etc. Here in our story, we found out that Elsa here tried to have a tubal ligation, but her husband denied. So that's all for our group, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Joy, for that very wonderful answer. Well, grabe ang brainstorm. That's why. So, I'm hearing from the group, we have the violence against women and children. Also, the sexual abuse by the husband. That's an act of rape. And lastly, the parenthood na act. Okay. How about the next group? Our representative is Miss Caitlin. Miss Caitlin on the floor, please. A round of applause, please, for Miss Caitlin. Para ma-encourage si Miss Caitlin. Okay, so we're our representative for group 2. Okay. Miss Grace. Miss Grace ma-take on some challenge. Good afternoon, Miss Grace. How are you this afternoon?
I'm fine.
You're the leader of Group 1.
Good afternoon. For the Group 2, as what we have discussed regarding Elsa's story, we have the 3 constitutional rights are the following. First is the sexual abuse. Second is the physical and mental abuse. And the last is that Elsa has no freedom or right to decide of her own. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ma'am Grace. So we also have the sexual rights at the same time. Elsa has no right of her own as to giving whether to be pregnant or not, right? So thank you so much. How about the branches? Do we have more answers for them?
I think we have one more that's very precise. This is from JL Mary Molenio. The right to control over your body, that's the first one.
Yes.
And the second one,
yes,
and the second one is free from violence or any kind of discrimination. And then the third one would be the right to decide freely. So that was a precise answer from JL Molenio.
Thank you so much from the branches. No, very precise. And I would like to congratulate everybody because you know your rights. So this story of Elsa is a case under Attorney Rodora M. Roy Ratera's article on constitutional and legal perspective of reproductive health. So it's a true story. And that, Elsa, if you would be Elsa, I'd like to throw you a challenge. Next slide, please. If you are Elsa, what actions have you done differently? Among those who are in the branches, if you are Elsa, what actions have you done differently? Among all those that we have mentioned earlier, the different rights that was violated. If you will, Elsa, will you allow your husband to do that to you? No, I can't hear you. Louder, please. No, because you have your own right. And those rights are, okay. So according to Popcom, we have 19,743 recorded cases of violence against women in our country. And hearing from those responses earlier, do always go out gid ang violence, anti-violence against women and children, which is also in every group siguro they have mentioned about it. And are you aware that in the law against violence against women, regardless of the ownership of the house, if found that the woman was being battered or the man was, or the perpetrator was able to commit violence against women or children, regardless of the ownership of the house, the perpetrator of, or the perpetrator, he has to move out, regardless iyan na ownership ang house or not. But if found guilty of the case by that woman or that mother in a family, the perpetrator or that person or the father should move out, regardless if it's his ownership ang house or it's on his family's ownership. In order for us to secure women and their children, diba? They have to move out. Yes, ma'am. You have that right. If found nga guilty, si perpetrator or si husband. And so among those that we have mentioned earlier, I have here some sexual reproductive health rights wherein you could always use. And this is from the Department of Health. So first one is the right to life, right for liberty and security of that person. Also, we have the right for equality and be free from all forms of discrimination. This is also this could also be applicable in our organization, that in selection in the hiring process, that a woman should not be discriminated over the other gentlemen applicants, because for the hiring process, qualifications, it should be solely based on the qualifications of the individual and not as the gender or the preference of that person. Also, we have the right to privacy. We also have the right for freedom of thought, the right for information and education, that even though you're a woman, you're still entitled to go to school. That's the right of a child at the same time. And we also have, next please, the right to choose whether or not to marry and to found and plan a family. I guess this one is also applicable for Elsa, that each and every person or an individual or a woman has the right to say no if he doesn't want to get pregnant. And at the same time, you have your right to plan your own family, especially for the gap as to how many number of years you want to have for your kids. The right to decide whether or when to have children, and the right for health care and health protection, whether to get pregnant or not. And the right or to be free from torture and ill treatment. So this, we are covered by all these laws. Thus, all we need to do is to equip ourselves with all this, because really we could fight for our own and we are protected by our law. Also, there are laws protecting us. These are primarily the violence against women. No? I have mentioned earlier that if the perpetrator, regardless of ownership, pwede kagad yan. You have to secure, you can secure your kids at home without living your own home. Pwede na nga, biskan kay papa pa or the parents' ownership of the house, yet that perpetrator has to move out. And the 105 expanded maternity leave, regardless also of your status, you are also entitled to it, whether you are married or not. Right, Miss? Mom HR? Yes, Mom HR is having her thumbs up. And prohibition and discrimination against women on the hiring process, as I have mentioned earlier also. And assistance for small-scale women entrepreneurs. I think this is also one of the advocacy, at the same time, the mission of the NWTF to support women as to small entrepreneur women, for them to become equipped, not just their to become empowered, at the same time self-providing, not too dependent sa kay husband. Because the tendency, the violence against the domestic violence and the sexual violence usually occur because the woman could not provide for their family or for her own self. That's why it prevalent, because there are those family settings that the women tends to be at home and the husband to be the one responsible in providing for the family. As much as she wants to go out from that situation, but with the difficulty as to finances, as to providing for her kids and for herself. That's why ang reason why NWTF would like to empower those women to be able to protect themselves and to be able to self-fulfilling and self-providing at the same time, especially for finances. And the Sexual Harassment Act, of course, you have also mentioned it, and the anti-rape law. That regardless of your relationship, whether husband or boyfriend, but if it is against your will, especially si husband, no, because in a marital relationship, they are not allowed to force themselves into you if you don't want to have a sexual activity with that person. Thus, even though he is your husband, you could always assert for your right. And all you have to do is to say no. And also we have the Magna Carta for Women, or the Republic Act 9710, which is, this is also in support as to the evolution of our advocacy as to gender, advocacy naton as to women, not just for women, but all forms of gender. So I'm trying not to be biased among women, but of course this is Women's Month. But of course we are also trying to protect the rights of each and every one of us. Of course, sexual and domestic violence doesn't just happen to all women. It's just that it is very prevalent among women, to clear things out. Okay, gentlemen? And lastly, our National Women's Day was established also. That is March 8th. And the very reason why we are doing this is for us women to be empowered and know of our own rights, to be able to protect ourselves. Because we as women, we are not just fighting as a woman, but we are fighting for our own human rights. It calls upon everyone for us to become human rights advocates of gender. It's not just about women. This is also for those who have their own preferences. That reproductive and sexual rights, and the beginning of which starts from being informed of your own rights, kahuwanan. You are protective of all those rights. All you have to do is to know them and reach out for those at times of need. Diba? You could always assert for your own right. And gender inequality is not a woman's issue. It is a human issue that affects all of us. It's just that, we women, we should also protect ourselves, because if there's something wrong, madwindol ang woman sa panimalay, what would happen? Right? Sometimes, reality, no? And of course, I do acknowledge ang mga fathers natin, ulirang ama natin, but of course, very crucial ang role na pinoportray ng isang nanay in a family. Right? Once there's a problem with the mother, affected all members of the family. Thus, you have to know your rights and you have to protect it. It's not just women's right, but it is humans' rights. Okay? So clear as to our rights. Also, have you thought about kay Elsa na story? So how was it? Are your responses to all those are correct? Correct? Very good. At least I'm assured and I'm happy that you know your own rights. Okay? So with all those stresses that you are going through, being a wana, being a mother, being a worker, being a mamita, a mama, and all those names that we are going through, with all those difficulties, challenging situations that we are going in, with all the hats that we are wearing. Because it doesn't follow nga kung woman ka, you are already a breadwinner of the family sometimes, right? With all those stresses, kamusta ka? How are you coping with all those times? Our next topic is about coping mechanisms and what are the different approaches you can do with all those stresses and difficulties you go through every day. Okay, so for coping mechanism, what are examples of coping mechanism? It could be, earlier, pwede, gardening, Pwede man you go into a salon, manicure, pedicure, that is already a type of coping. And ano pa? Any other form of coping that you do usually? Yes, ma'am? Zumba, very good. Dancing is a very good form of coping also. So let's discuss what is coping. So coping, it is a method you use or you deal with stressful situations and sensations. People's coping skills consist of your thoughts and actions. Yes, a Zumba. It could be while you're dancing, you're releasing your deep emotions. It could be sensual sometimes, right? And at the same time, you use it to deal with your daily stresses. So we have two kinds of coping. So the first one is the active, wherein you head-on deal with that difficulty, with that stress. And there are some who deal with or they use coping, means of coping is through avoidance. Trying to avoid from certain stressful situations to relieve themselves from all those conditions. There are those that they tend to back off. And there are those nga, sige, bring it on. So for active, involve awareness of stressors, attempt to reduce negative outcome, try to control the situation. That is active. Whereas avoidant, may denial, sometimes non-acceptance of what is really happening at that time. Because they don't want to relieve themselves, they tend to deny what is actually happening and what is really the problem of the situation. So we have the active and we have the avoidant. So also I have here stated some of the good coping, and hindi man siya bad, but poor coping. So for poor coping, there are those, ay, tanga-tanga ko talaga. Diba? Syunga-syunga, giguya. There are times that we do that also, right? That is still coping. But yet, it's a poor coping. We could have done a bit better than that, right? So we could also have some become violent. Mainit po ka pag nagagalit or ano kay mister, what do? Do you tend to throw things also? The pinggan and the baso. And also we have spreading of rumors, because I hate that person. I will spread rumors about her negative experiences or her negative work. Also, we tend to hurt oneself, tend to slash, and pretending not to care, as if it's the problem is not happening. And lastly, of course, putting your fingers onto others. But remember, as you point your fingers to others, how many fingers comes back to you? Diba? You got 4. So let us try as much as possible not to put or blame others as to what is happening. So those are examples of poor coping mechanism. The second one is we have the good coping. It could be positive talks. I've been a failure sometime, but yet I can overcome the situation. That is positive self-talk. Doing something creative, instilling hope, warming others that you can do that. Sometimes you tend to attend on others' wound, diba? Despite the fact that you have also your own wound, but yet you manage to, as you're coping, you tend to help those who also needs help. And self-care, that's what I've mentioned earlier, could be mani-pedi, it could be a form of self-care, haircut, coloring of hair, and involvement on certain activities, taking a break. Of course, we all need break. That is self-care. Once in a while, in order for us to bring it on, bring back more workload pa because I was able to recharge. And lastly, finding solutions. So these are examples of poor and good coping. So let's discuss. If you were able to find it difficult to identify your coping, here are some. Okay. So let your emotions out physically. One of that is also Zumba or dancing. And of course, you can release your deep emotions by going for a walk or for a run. It would relieve, not just physically, you are conditioned, but at the same time, it releases also the stresses you are going through. Squeezing a stress ball would also help, diba? Because of the tension that you are transferring. Instead of the tension in your brain, you're transferring the tension into your muscles. We also have screaming into a pillow, diba? That is very good coping also. At the same time, you release the emotion, and at the same time, you weren't able to hurt other people. Screaming at the same time, because for screaming, there is a cathartic effect, the release of deep emotion, not just in screaming, but also in talking. That's why sometimes, despite that person hasn't responded to your concerns, lang siya, just sitting beside you, may cathartic effect siya because gradually you are releasing those frustrations that you feel. And as you continue to release all those emotions, gradually die down ang emotion. Singing and dancing, the Zumba. And of course, ripping up a newspaper. No, diversion, na-release mo yung emotion. And at the same time, playing a sport. And doing some chores, especially yung pananom, gardening. Sometimes you can just go out and say, hi plants, hi succulent, how are you doing? That would help you because that is also in a manner of coping because you have control of what you are doing. It's a sense of feeling that you could see new growth, fulfilling feeling that you were able to take care of something and that it could grow out something fruitful and meaningful. And lastly, the very important one is crying. Because it's very normal for us to feel frustrated, to feel anger, and it's really okay to cry. Not just for women, but also for gentlemen. Tao lang po, diba? Even gentlemen experience also difficulty in the backdown ng system. Thus, you need to recharge and release all those frustrations that you feel. You are allowed to cry, gentlemen. And of course, other ways for you to express your emotions. It could be in a form of a drawing or painting because with that, especially for kids, this is very applicable for your children also. If you don't know and they aren't able to express how they feel, it could be in a form of a drawing. Because for example, for mga situations like may mga calamity, what we do is we let the kids draw for us to draw out their emotions because sometimes they find it hard to express it. So you can do it also sa inyong mga kids. And you could see the pictures, whether the picture is still smiling or the picture is angry. And also writing a story or starting a diary. Having a journal sometimes when we are still young and we still have our crush, though we tend to have our diary. And what do we call that? You have to slum book. Very good. Very tananta, probably been with slum book. I don't know, with a gentleman. But those are a very good form of coping mechanism because for that is very affordable, economical. It could be found anywhere, at home. And at the same time, as to worries that if you're going to share your emotions, your frustrations in life, your failures in life, tendency would be, worry mo is that you might be judged by other people. Whereas for a pen and a ball pen would be very helpful for you to release all those emotions without being worried as to you are being judged or not. And in doing a journal, I would like to add lang, before towards the end of your journal, just put 3 things to remind you of what you are capable of. Because it is important for you to release your emotions. But also, most of the time, our brain could only process negative emotions. Negative emotions, our brain has the capacity to retain it longer than the positive emotions. Thus, doing your diary or doing your journal, sometimes do ka silly, man, do ka bata-bata. But of course, in doing a journal, it would help you release your emotion, but just put 3 reminders of yourself of what you are capable of. Because sometimes it is inherent within us. But we tend to forget the positive that we have. The capacities that we have when we are too overwhelmed with our challenges, with our problems that we encounter. So tatlo lang towards the end to remind yourself of what you are capable of. Do this every day because every day you can relieve your emotions. And then soon, once everything is over, we'll just laugh at what you have written in your journal. Diba? Or sometimes you tend to have, that you were able to overcome such difficult situations. As you look back at it, you will be proud of yourself also. And aside from having a journal, you could also do this one, scrapbook. You can exhibit your artistic skills, diverting your attention and negative emotions into this. Thus, it would also be very effective way of releasing those emotions. And of course, aside from singing and dancing, playing an instrument. Remember, may ara kita gani tendency, once the music is too sad or too happy, you are usually affected with it. Because those are sometimes hidden emotions, pent-up emotions kept within. But through playing and through singing and through dancing, pwede siya ma-draw out. And it could help us release those pent-up emotions that we feel inside. We also have we should also help our mind and our body to refocus through deep breathing, mindfulness, meditation, and muscle relaxation. So we're going to try this one this afternoon. Also, virtually, you could also try this in your branches. Okay, the first one, let's try the breathing exercise. Are you familiar with loud breathing? Loud breathing? Who among you is familiar with loud breathing? Very good. Okay. So for loud breathing, we have inhale and then release the tension. Hold your breath. Release the tension. Oh. Loud breathing. Again, everyone, loud breathing, please. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. And release. Oh. Okay, so that is loud breathing. It has also a cathartic effect wherein you could release your negative emotion. Why are you smiling? Pag loud breathing, pag does it smell good or smells bad? Huh? That we will know kung sa number 1 earlier as to the mental health. Are you still taking care of yourself? Do you still brush your teeth? Oh, diba? Sige, we will know that. But of course, with your own privacy lang, we will know lang kung struggle your own lang that because of the mask. Okay? So we have the breathing exercise that is 4, 7, 8. 4 seconds to inhale and deep breath. Anyway, I would like you to, before we proceed this one, I would like you to sit properly. Okay. Sit straight, elbows slightly back. Okay, hands on the lock. And inhale. Inhale a deep breath for 4 seconds. Next, hold your breath. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath for 7 seconds. And exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, kaya? Can we do that? Sige, in the branches, try it. 4, 7, and 8 seconds. 4 seconds to inhale. 7 to hold your breath, and 8 release gradually. Okay, let's give it a try. 4, 7, and 8. Okay, can we close your legs? Or are those very open? Kindly close your legs, sit properly, and hands on your lap, please. Okay. Dalagang Pilipinan. Okay. Sige, are we ready? 4, 7, and 8. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And release. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath for 7 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. And release. 1, 2, 3, 4. When you inhale and you exhale, what happens to your tummy? Inhale. Gabig. Inhale, gabig. And then when you release, the small. Right? Okay. So inhale, again, 4, 7, and 8. Okay, bear with it lang sa wala naka-toothbrush. Okay, so we will have our breathing exercise. Okay, ready? Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 5, 6, 7, and release. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So you can do that at the comfort of your own, in your own corner, even at work, diba? So aside from breathing exercise, we can also do this. If you feel like stressed, then stress ko kay boss. Boss, sorry, alam mga bosses at the back. If you're feeling stressed, you can do the breathing exercise. And also this one, the muscle relaxation. Even in your office, you can also do this. So let's do the first one. Sit on a chair. Crunch up your face. Crunch up your face, crunch up your muscle. And then relax. Crunch, then relax. Crunch, and then relax. Can we have a model for this one? Would you like your model natin would come from among our FASTs? Or any volunteer among the group to become a model? First volunteer. Yes, ma'am. Sir, would you like to volunteer? Would you do the honor, please? Sir? Any suggestion for the volunteer? Force? O ang ano lang yun ah? Anyone would like to volunteer in front? Sir, would you like to volunteer according to them? Yay! A big hand for sir. Go cheer, boys. Yes, sir. Here, please. Yes. Sandiri? Okay. Okay. Can you move here? You are? Hernan. Romo. Good afternoon, Sir Hernan. Status? Single. Very good. Oh, very up. Single. Okay, Sir Hernan, let's try the muscle relaxation. Okay, so muscle relaxation, tense your, we'll do the number 3, tense your arms, forward, tense your arms, tense, and then relax. Tense, and then relax. Again, tense, and then relax. Also, we have shoulders and chest. Okay, so tense your shoulders and chest. Shoulders tense. Sige, ang muscle. Show your muscles, and then relax. Tense, and then relax. Okay. And the last one, we also have your legs. Tense your legs for all those who are sitting. Tense your legs. Tense, and then relax. Let's do it 3 times. Tense, and then relax. Another one. Tense, and then relax. Okay, so that is for our muscle relaxation. Thank you so much, Hernan. Also, aside from muscle relaxation, you could also do this one, the meditation. But of course, for meditation, it would require you a quiet place for you to sit down and reflect of what is happening right now. So can we try this one? All right, this one, mindfulness. Okay, so take a seat. Find a place to sit down, feel calm. I want you all to sit down properly in your comfortable position. Kindly close your eyes. Close your eyes. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Focus on what is happening right now. Focus on your senses. Your sense of feeling, your sense of hearing, and your sense of smelling. Virtually, you could also do that in the branches. Kindly close your eyes and feel the surroundings. All your senses, make them all active of what is happening right now. Focus your mind of what is happening, the here and the now. Remove all those concerns that you have. Anong nagakabatian ta? What is the sound, the sense of hearing, Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Okay, kindly open your eyes. So how do you feel right now? Simple, very few seconds lang yun, but we're able to release all those emotions and being mindful of what is happening right now, what you're feeling right now with all those senses that you have. It could also be a form of coping. Stop and being able to pause, have a break for a few seconds. And mindfulness is a basic human ability to be fully present and aware of what is happening right now. So you can do this at home. Who among you practice ang mindfulness? Yoga, do you do that? For those who are not yet doing that, that's very effective also. Okay? So, aside from this one, I have here also a few recommendations as to how you're going to deal with your challenging situations. So, sending an impulsive text when you're angry, why don't you try writing a note for yourself? Also, lashing out at a loved one, kay tendency natin would lash out for the person closest to us. Go on a solo walk. Also, bottling up your feelings, listen to your favorite album. Going to overthinking spiral, sulit-sulit, why don't you watch a light-hearted show? It might probably make your heart beat or make you smile. Comparing yourself to others, why don't you try to make a list of things you are grateful of? Because sometimes we are too busy looking onto others, what we don't have. We tend to forget what we have already. Diba? We are also very blessed of what we have. Thus, all we need to do is to be thankful and grateful about it. Example, we tend to complain most of our stresses come from work, but remember, there are some that they would do everything just to get that position that we have right now. Diba? So let us always be grateful and thankful of what we have. And of course, you can pour from an empty cup. Take care of yourself. You cannot give what you do not have. If you are too stressed, how could you attend to others, especially to your clientele, if you are too pent up? Para ng tanan na emotions. Thus, you have to take a break, do self-care, and release all those emotions in order for you to empty that cup and to be able to serve others. Lastly, take a deep breath. It's not a bad day. It's just a bad day. It's not a bad life. Diba? And all of us have been going through that. And that is really normal. Soon, you will overcome that. Wala man sang constant. There will always be change. And towards the end of the day, your challenge is to answer this question. What have you done? Have you done good to others? Have you done good? Have you become a better person? And of course, will your future self will be proud or thankful for of what you have done. Lastly, never get tired of doing little things for others. Sometimes those little things occupy the biggest part of their heart. And again, everyone, please read. Okay, so look at the people behind you. You have all those women who support you. Remember, you are a strong and empowered woman. And earlier, you have promised to take on the challenge. Okay. So when you educate a man, you educate an individual. But when you educate a woman, you educate the whole family. And congratulations to all women out there, here in the studio and in our branches. Okay, so that ends my topic this afternoon.